I'm Baute, Chief Commercial Officer at POLITICO, as Stephen just said. And before our next segment takes the stage, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Salesforce, for their support of today's summit. And today I'm delighted to sit down with Kendall, Salesforce Chief Executive Officer of GovCloud, to discuss trends in AI and how it can drive productivity and growth in the private sector in this rapidly evolving age of technology. Kendall, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us and for having this incredible event. It's great to bring everyone together, and we're just grateful to be here.
Welcome back to the DMV.
It's wonderful to be here.
Reliving your college
Yeah, I
era.
went to UVA. It's kind of amazing to connect with you on volleyball and so many things that we did together. It's great to be back
That's
here.
our secret. It's just us talking about volleyball. But now let's get to the important stuff here. So Kendall, everyone's buzzing about predictive generative and now agentic AI. So how are you seeing agentic AI transforming the way organizations like yours and your customers are operating and competing?
This is an absolutely amazing time. I joined Salesforce 22 years ago, if you can believe that. I was 11 years old. And I've been there a long time, and I watched all these different waves of technology. You know, obviously we worked on cloud computing. I was the GM for our social products and collaboration. I spent a lot of time on mobile and kind of thinking about how we'd bring applications to every enterprise and every government and every citizen. And AI is just going faster and crazier than really almost anything I've ever seen. And we've been in it for 10 years. It's sort of incredible. We started out with machine learning, and prompt engineering was actually invented at Salesforce by a guy named Richard Socher. And we spent so much time thinking about how AI would transform business and customer relationships. And about a year ago, we got down this path where we realized that agents were going to be changing everything. And it's kind of amazing. We launched it a year ago, Agentforce, and we now have 6,000 customers that have paid us and are building agents and deploying them. And what we've seen is that it's just an incredible uptake in terms of agentic AI and how people are changing their business. We've now got those customers up, live, running, doing things, and they're learning, they're iterating, and we're going to talk more about this, but it's a huge part of the process to get the best value. We have customers like Adecco. It's one of the largest recruiting and staffing firms in the world. They've got millions of people who are looking for jobs or looking for the exit, should there be an emergency. But when they're doing that,
Let's keep going.
All right,
Please
let's
continue.
keep going. So if you have a staffing emergency, Adecco is an excellent place to go. And one of the things that was fascinating is that 50% of the people who came to the website to apply for jobs came out of working business hours. So they built an agent with Salesforce. They've been able to service all of these people, match them against different jobs, and do this in an incredibly efficient way. I apologize. There's a lot blinking. There's a lot happening back there that you might not be able to see.
Now that's, we're going to do our best to just continue, and if they tell us that there is a real threat, I assure you we will all move safely and calmly to the exits. But Kendall, one of the things that we often hear is that there's a concern for people as to whether agentic AI can be trusted. Is it secure? Is it transparent? Is it even reliable? So if somebody here were to ask you directly, can we trust your AI? What would you say?
Yes. And I think that trust is something that you have to build together. It's like any relationship, right? Like we've met and you build that relationship, you build trust. And I think what's fascinating is everybody here, you've had an experience, you've used ChatGPT, you've used Anthropic, you've used Gemini, and you test it, you try things. It makes you more productive. Sometimes it gets something wrong. Sometimes it writes something funny. Sometimes, it is amazing at processing code or doing something significant on that front. And I think what's fascinating is that, you build it together. And I think as you see AI come into the enterprise and into the government and be citizen-facing, you need to build that trust again, because you're going to build it at a team level. You're going to build it when you're doing an important process, maybe with the government or maybe in your company. You're going to have a budget that maybe the agent can allocate or move. It's going to be a key constraint in process and workflow. So trust has always been our number one value. It's something that we put at the heart of what we did from the beginning at Salesforce, because people are trusting us with their data. We don't own our customers' data. We can never see it, but we are the custodians of it. So bringing trust and all of that data into Salesforce, this is one of the key things that lets AI have the context and the memory to be really effective. So I think people are going to love what they see with trusted AI, because you need to bring you need to bring all of this together in a way that, again, people can build confidence and really then extend it and deploy it much further.
So today, we're hearing from top U.S. technology policy leaders on how the public sector can harness private sector innovation, like Salesforce's. And so I'd like for you to tell me a little bit more about what you're already seeing in the public sector, and where do you see the most potential?
Yeah, public sector, I think, is just an amazing opportunity for all of us. I mean, we're all citizens, we're taxpayers, you know, we're parents, we're veterans, and this is such an important part of really serving the public sector. Salesforce has been in the public sector now for, gosh, well over a decade. It's a multi-billion-dollar business for us. The US federal government is our single largest customer. So we have done a lot with the public sector, and it's been amazing, whether we have served NASA, you know, one of the most important organizations advancing scientific research, recruiting people, running their operations, matching candidates and scientists against different jobs and opportunities. We work with the Department of Veterans Affairs. This is a very, very important organization that we're honored to support. It's one of our largest and most significant customers. We deliver personalized health care and a number of things that, you know, support our veterans every day, give them help. They have a great program called Squares. Squares is a way that you can basically, if you're a veteran, go anywhere amongst a network of different service providers, and, you know, they're able to immediately query and check to see if you are a veteran and all the services that you're entitled to. So this is just a way to kind of improve all of the service that we're giving to our veterans. And I see public sector right now just taking off in an incredible way. You know, there are many, many extremely important objectives that I think this administration has been pushing, whether it's AI and the adoption of it or other areas. And I think you're going to see it really take off.
So when I think of Salesforce, and maybe perhaps others do, normally think of CRM or sales contracts or Matthew McConaughey, perhaps. Not exactly the public sector as you described it, let alone working in national security. So what exactly is Salesforce doing in this space, though?
So for national security, this is one of our most important spaces. We've been involved in it for years. So we're honored that we're able to support the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. Really almost every branch of government, every agency is a Salesforce customer in some way. So it's not a new area to us, but I'll just tell you the personal story, which is, you know, Mark and I were meeting with a number of military leaders, and it was really interesting exposure for us. You know, my prior role is I was the chief business officer and Mark's chief of staff, and these military leaders really, they brought us in and they just articulated the importance of working with the private sector and trying to learn from the best practices, what was happening out there in the world, you know. And they asked us to do more. So one of the things we said is, hey, we want to do more. What's important to you? And, you know, we thought about it and we said, look, these people have the most important mission. We need to support them on that mission. We need to serve those who serve. And that's why we're really delighted to be announcing Mission Force. Mission Force is a new initiative, a new team, a new business unit. It's a portfolio of products that we have had in many ways serving the private sector. We're bringing now to defense, aerospace, and intelligence. And we just think this can have a really, really formative impact. There's a lot of areas that we think are just incredibly important, whether it's the personnel management or the assets and logistics and field service, or just the analytics to really increase that decision velocity and accelerate, you know, all of the key decisions that need to be made in a very distributed and centralized way also for the military. And, you know, we're just proud to be part of the mission, and it's kind of interesting because we see these things that have happened, like the US Army. If you go to the US Army and you want to join the Army, we're proud and delighted to be running that recruiting and running that website. So the same military organization, you know, that's incredibly important, has a problem that's been solved in the private sector with somebody like Adecco or Indeed. So they want to bring agentic AI. They want to bring this HR kind of intelligence layer to everything they're doing around personnel. And, you know, these are the types of things we see that can dramatically improve how people really have that continuous mission readiness. And there's nowhere more critical than, this sector to have that mission criticality. And we're just delighted to be working on it, investing deeply with them.
That's a very big announcement. Thank you for making it also on the stage. That's exciting.
Of course.
And it's illuminating to understand the depth of your work with the government. And so we're running short on time, and we've covered a lot here, but let's look ahead. And based off of your deep, extensive knowledge of how the government has been working with AI so far with Salesforce, what should government leaders be doing right now to ensure that AI is adopted responsibly and delivers the greatest benefit to citizens and society?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a fascinating time for government, and one of the most important things I think they can do, and they are doing, we're certainly seeing it here in the US, is engaging the private sector. I think what a lot of people in government are realizing is that the processes they have are, for the most part, are not exotic, right? They're not that different than a lot of things we've solved in the private sector. The government does healthcare. The government has some financial services. The government does logistics and field service. These are all things where we want to bring the best of what's happened in the private sector, not always reinvent the wheel, and bring it to the government in a really effective way. And I see governments looking at and looking to learn. Particularly this administration has really outlined, I think, a number of key objectives for AI, how to work with the private sector. And I think it's been really formative. You're seeing different technology get tested and iterated on. From here, we're headed to the UK. And Mark's going to be meeting the Premier and as well as the President, or the Prime Minister, and as well as the President of the United States. And it's interesting to see all of these governments around the world engaging with the private sector. I think they're obviously thinking about investment. They're thinking about safety and trust and security. They're thinking about how to advance productivity and really how to drive their own GDP, as a country and a nation. So it's just a really formative time, and it's exciting to see government leaning in this way. I'm not sure that we always saw that with other types of technology, but I think this is so transformative, and the opportunity with agents is massive. So they're doing it, and I think they need to keep doing it and engaging with everybody.
Kendall, thank you so much for your time. I think that's a great place to leave it. We appreciate your thoughts, your insights, time, and expertise. And thank you so much to you in the audience for sticking with us during the fire alarm, and for those on the live stream who were wondering what was happening. This was a great conversation, and we appreciate Salesforce support in this summit. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Great.